I need a new Kirby game. What if it was a racing game, but drifting isn't important? And what if the racing part wasn't even the best part of the game?
That's brilliant!
They called it slow. They called it simple. They called it ugly. They questioned why Nintendo would release 3 racing games in 2003. But for me, a little baby clump, who had never heard of F-Zero aside from the Falcon Punch, was gifted a copy of Kirby Air Ride, and the game hasn't left my mind in the almost 20 years since its release. Out of all 3 racing games Nintendo put out in 2003, Kirby Air Ride is probably the game I've played the most, even with its simplicity. The acceleration button. You see it in real life and in video games. You hit a button to move. It's a completely natural instinct. But in Kirby Air Ride, you just go. The reviewers were right. It's so simple. Even a dumb idiot kid like me could play this. It's so simple, even my dumb idiot friend's literal 3-year-old sister could play it. To play Kirby Air Ride, you use 2 buttons. Take a look at the GameCube controller now, you aren't gonna need most of it. The analog stick changes direction, and the A button does everything else. Boost, A button. Brake, A button. Swallow enemies, A button. Copy abilities, A button. You're certainly lucky that the A button on the GameCube controller is large, because it's about to become your best friend. Traditional drifting in most rides, yes, the vehicles in this game are called rides, is non-existent. If you want to get around a tight corner, you have to stop and boost off it. This makes Kirby Air Ride feel like no other racing game. For such a simple game, there is a bit of a learning curve if you want to beat your friend's sister. And while all the rides are not winners, we'll get to that later, the controls end up feeling very satisfying. As satisfying as drifting in, let's say, Mario Kart? No, but it feels great. Instead of picking characters, you pick rides. These rides all play and control differently. You have the usual suspects, like the all-around basic one, the one that can fly well, the one that's based off a motorcycle. That's all fine and good, but Kirby Air Ride really likes to get weird with it. You have the Swerve Star, a machine that can only turn when you stop, the Slick Star, a machine where it is impossible to stop, the Formula Star, where we ask the bold question, what if you could go really fast and not turn at all? And the Bulk Star, which may be the single worst vehicle that has ever been in a racing game. A ride so obtuse to use that you can lose to a 3-year-old if you pick it. The machines also look straight up cool. You tell me that anything in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe looks as sick as the Swerve Star or the Rex Wheelie, and I will give you my YouTube channel that's not worth any money. But even with all this going against the grain, the racing in Kirby Air Ride still feels generic. The paltry track selection only includes 9 courses. Mario Kart Double Dash launched with 16, and F-Zero GX launched with 20. There's some decent stuff out of the 9, like Magma Flows, Checkered Nights, and Machine Passage, but when 2 of the 9 tracks are Fantasy Meadows and Nebula Belt? What are we even doing here? Nebula Belt, the one unlockable track, has no enemies and only a few turns. It's like if you took Rainbow Road and made it lifeless. Unlocking it feels like a punishment, not a reward. If Kirby Air Ride was just a racing game, it would have been tossed aside with the likes of Sonic Riders and Pac-Man World Rally. Luckily, Sakurai and his team at HAL Laboratory were cooking up something weird, something forward-thinking, something just straight up better in the kitchen. City Trial is the reason this game is a time sink. It's unlike any multiplayer game on the GameCube, and you see the roots of it in the modern multiplayer ecosystem. In this mode, you start with essentially nothing, and are dropped into a sandbox where you collect items and battle other players before a final confrontation or challenge. Sound familiar?
We got a #1 victory royale. Yeah, Fortnite, we bout to get down.
Look, I'm not saying that City Trial is the first battle royale or anything like that, but its gameplay loop of looting and conflict feels more akin to modern-day games like Fortnite and Apex Legends than anything on the GameCube. The sandbox map may be on the smaller side, but there's interesting stuff in nearly every corner. The volcano, the rails, the underground sections, they don't waste a ton of space here. The real genius of this game, though, is how good breaking boxes feel. In a game like Fortnite, opening chests and cutting trees doesn't feel particularly satisfying. Having to physically run over the boxes, combined with the squeeze and release of the game's boosting system, brings a certain kind of satisfying bliss. The boxes contain stats or items, or even sometimes a part to a legendary air ride machine. The rush for legendary parts combined with the time matches brings an excellent sense of frantic tension to it. And having to account for the random minigame at the end gives the game a trademark wacky Nintendo luck factor. Seriously, the hints are almost never correct.
What?
These minigames can be anything from a normal race to target flights to a boss fight that is harder than Elden Ring that I've never beaten in my entire life! Sorry about that one, y'all. In City Trial, there's just so much to do and no single match feels the same. Its unique style of multiplayer has held up extremely well, and I'm shocked Nintendo hasn't revisited the concept aside from Smash Run and Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS. If Nintendo ever wanted to make a free-to-play live service game, this would be the property I would use. Its concept fits so snugly in the modern multiplayer landscape, and it would be great to see again. To get this game onto the Nintendo Switch, I promise I will buy all the Kirby bucks and Kirby Battle Passes. I will use all of my mom's credit cards. Please, Nintendo, let me bankrupt myself and give you money.